Hi, church. It's Michael here. I hope you've been doing well over the past few days, and I continue to pray that you have been experiencing God, even while practicing physical distancing. I've been talking with quite a few people over the last few days, over the last week, and it seems like there's a common theme that comes out in our conversations as we just discuss what's happening. We all agree that there's just a sense of heaviness in the air. There's just a sense of things being so different, but in a negative way. And it's kind of easy to see why. The news is constantly giving us updates on the coronavirus, and that's good. It's good to be updated, and I encourage us all to practice physical distancing, following the guidelines that the government has laid out for us. But it seems like these days everything is defined by the coronavirus. Our daily life, our days, everything is just defined by what's happening right now. And I want to encourage us in this time that the coronavirus does not define who we are or what we do. In his letter to a broad church, Peter writes in 1 Peter about the amazing God and the amazing gift that God has given. He writes in 1 Peter chapter 1, verse 3, "All praise to God, the Father of our Lord Jesus Christ. It is by his great mercy that we have been born again, because God raised Jesus Christ from the dead. Now we live with great expectation, and we have a priceless inheritance, an inheritance that is kept in heaven for you, pure and undefiled, beyond the reach of change and decay. And through your faith, God is protecting you by his power until you receive this salvation, which is ready to be revealed on the last day for all to see. So be truly glad. There is a wonderful joy ahead, even though you must endure many trials for a little while." Peter's writing about the great hope that we have in this gift of salvation, and yet the people there seem to be facing some trials. And I think whenever there are trials, it tries to get us focused on what's down here, what's on the right now. And Peter's saying, no. Remember, we have to focus on what's up here. Because what's up here is bigger than anything else that happens down here. Carrying on in chapter 1, Peter will move into how they should live, or the call to holy living. And in verse 13 he writes, "So prepare your minds for action and exercise self-control. Put all your hope in the gracious salvation that will come to you when Jesus Christ is revealed to the world." Put all your hope in the gracious salvation that will come to you when Jesus Christ is revealed to the world. We have a hope, and I think that hope is meant to define us. Now, we are to take some action, right? Preparing our minds for action, exercising self-control. And he goes on to say how we are to live still obedient to God in the midst of trials, in the midst of hard times. But our focus is not solely on those hard times, not down here, but our focus is up here on the hope that we've put in that glorious, the gracious salvation, rather, from Jesus. So, church, I want to encourage us that we are not having these days defined by the coronavirus, but our days are actually defined by hope. And I think that we are a people defined by hope. Now, there are two ways that I think we live out this hope. First, we continue to seek God, the one who we put our hope in, the one who is the giver of this gracious gift of salvation through Jesus. Continue to be in prayer, continue to listen to God through his word. I think that is most important. But as we put our hope in Him, we are also people who get to share hope with one another. And so we are being told to be physically distant from one another, but I believe that we should still be socially connected. And so I would challenge you this week to think of just two people in your social circle, or two people maybe even in our church who you have not connected with over the last week, and connect with them, right? There's lots of ways to do that. There's lots of technology helping us. There's Zoom and WhatsApp and Facebook Messenger, and you can just text someone, or even, and I know this is strange for a lot of us who are younger, but you could just call them on the telephone. We can do that. So connect with someone. Connect with two people this week that you haven't connected with. Just see how they're doing, because this is a time where people will begin to feel isolated, and there's almost a sense of hopelessness that creeps in. But let us remind one another of the great hope that we have in Jesus. When the enemy wants us to focus down here on what's happening, God reminds us that we keep looking up and we keep focusing on His gracious gift. So, church, my prayer for you this week is to be people of hope, resting in His salvation and sharing that hope with one another.